Today on Trek Reports, we're going to talk about the Cardassian unit and their battle tactics and what they typically do when facing the other major empires. Cardassian's primary weapon is the Galor-class cruiser. They typically are going to maneuver in groups of 2 or 3, typically seen in groups of 3. Galor-class cruisers use their primary weapon, which is the heavy spiral wave disruptor cannon, to destroy the enemy targets. When they come into range, they'll typically fire all 3 in unison at the enemy capital ship. For this case, it'll be a Nebula-class cruiser. Once the Nebula-class cruiser has been destroyed, that's the command structure of the enemy ships, it'll cause the combatants to be disorganized, and that's when they'll start picking off the enemy ships until they destroy the enemy fleet. Cardassian ships are superior than most Generation 1 Federation starships. They will struggle against Generation 2, and they're not capable of destroying Generation 3 on their own. So this is why that they behave in this manner and they move in groups of 3. In order to try to offset the defensive capabilities of cloaked vessels against these ships, they have spiral wave disruptors, which are located throughout different points on the ship. And the reason they move in groups is if they are attacked by a cloaked ship, on a one-on-one they'd probably be destroyed, especially against a bird of prey with its incredibly powerful disruptor cannons and its ability to get behind the ship and attack its weaker spots. Cardassian's weapons are more dangerous in the front, so cloaked ships are its #1 source of danger. So to try to compensate for this, they'll move in groups and then they will fire upon the enemy ship and try to overwhelm it with its lower level disruptors, which are the spiral wave disruptor cannons. They're a lower yield weapon, but they can be efficient in groups. The main reason they're using this kind of doctrine is their weapons are about 7,500 points of damage, which is relatively low compared to the Klingon disruptors, which are 32,500 per blast. So you can see that the comparison of these weapons is that the Galor is significantly weaker when it comes to its secondary weapons. The second fleet configuration would consist of the Galor being the command ship and then followed by some squadrons of Hideki-class raiders. The Hideki-class raiders do have a powerful forward-facing medium spiral wave disruptor cannon, which is equivalent to the same weapon seen on the bird of prey. So if you can imagine if a fleet of birds of prey decloaked and began attacking the flagship, what would happen is the Hidekis would then turn themselves to engage those enemy ships by putting themselves in the front line, and they would start to attack the ships and swarm around them, trying to destroy them, trying to protect the Galor. Hideki classes will put themselves throughout the ship, and they will be in the front, the rear, and the sides to protect it from cloaked vessels. But if they're engaging an enemy that is not using cloaking devices, what typically will happen is the Hidekis will actually stay in the front, and they'll try to keep fighters or small maneuver craft off the main fleet, and they'll typically ride in the front or on the side of the Galor-class starships. It'll usually position itself in front of the fleet in order to destroy and engage small attack ships such as the Runabout or any kind of Federation bomber or any other enemy ship that's extremely maneuverable, and its primary weapon would be getting that forward-facing medium spiral wave disruptor cannon, which is pretty powerful to destroy those small ships straight out in either 1 or 2 shots. With the help of the Dominion technology, they're able to increase their spiral wave disruptors located throughout the ship are now twice the strength they used to be, capable of giving a load of 15,000 per shot. Seen here, destroying fighters in 1 shot. This is how we were able to evaluate that they have increased it to 15,000. So we're just going to talk about some of the differences. So you can see, like, they literally shot this ship with the primary weapon and 13 auxiliary, and it didn't even bring it down. And you see later on, once they got upgraded by the Dominion, they're able to destroy birds of prey in 1 shot, which you'll see right here. So that's going to be at least 390,000. And then the short of bug ship, 520,000. And then somewhere around 650,000 is what this beam is doing. 2 shots to take down a Bree energy ship. And then they destroy a Miranda class, not in this photo, but in this fight in 4 shots. So you've gone from 65 to, it's like something like 167,000 to 650,000 at the very end. So I don't know of any weapon or any race's energy weapons that had increased that much during any of the Dominion War besides the Cardassians. So for those of you who have ever wondered, why are they able to generate this much power? It's really simple. When they designed the ship, because of the weakness that the Cardassians has in their weapons are generally a lot weaker than Federation, they needed to do something to break the edge. So in order to get a high-level weapon, they had to build a giant cannon into the navigational deflector and connect it to the warp core. So this has been seen, and this is not an efficient way to do a weapon. This is very dangerous, but the Cardassians have mastered it. And the Enterprise had done the same thing when trying to attack the Borg, channeling all its energy through the navigational deflector and turning it into a giant beam, but then it didn't do anything. That same thing that they did then is what this ship is doing all the time. It's just on a smaller scale. So because of that, the ship was designed to take and was designed for that. It wasn't that hard for them to upgrade it with once they got Dominion technology, and they increased it from 65,000 terawatts to 167 terawatts. And at the very end of the war, they increased it to 650,000. So I'm assuming that at 650,000, they probably had some type of defensive platform beam actually integrated into the ship itself, because so much room is dedicated to that spiral wave disruptor cannon. That's why other ships are not able to do something of this nature. If you look at like the Nigvar, for example, they had to add modules on the bottom of the Nigvar class cruiser for the Klingons in order to make that thing attack Deep Space Nine and knock out shields with those giant disruptors. And so this is something kind of like that, except for it's actually built into the ship itself, connecting to the navigational deflector. So because we see it, I try to come up with the explanation in-house for this. So we know that the Cardassian spiral wave disruptor cannon was equivalent to a Type X phaser, which was 65,000. It just seems like the Cardassians aren't able to fire as much. They can do 12 instead of 14, but the 12 is only seen by the Kelton class, and the Kelton class is a upgraded version of the Galor, which may actually be a variant of the Galor Type 3. So the more I try to think about this, because one of the things that was kind of threw me off is that the Cardassian Type 1 or Type 2, whatever you see during Sacrifice of an Angels, is using a beam that's around like 168,750, right? This is equivalent to a Romulan Warbirds disruptor. So we know the Cardassians and the Romulans had an alliance with the Tel Shiar and Obsidian Order, so they may actually be using Romulan technology there. That is a possibility. So the Dominion Polaron beam weapons are 65,000 also, but the Polaron beam weapons that are seen on the cruiser are way stronger, and they're around 325,000. I don't have a correct volume rate for how much they fire, because we only see them fire like 1 or 2 shots at a time. So because of that, I'm assuming that maybe those things they just charge up really, really powerful, and then they shoot a simple blast. But that's just a theory. They may be able to fire more, I don't know. But since we've seen the 325,000 come out of them, because we've seen one of them use a torpedo and then one shot and then take out a Miranda. So the Miranda's shields are like 390,000, and then it's like another 200 something for its hull value. So it's really powerful. So I was thinking to myself, well, that's at the end of the war, and we know that the Dominion have a weapon that's 325,000, and then we have another energy beam weapon the Cardassian produces 390,000. So they're producing weapons already that are half of what they end up doing. So it makes me think that the end version that is doing 650,000 is actually Dominion technology, and they've integrated the Dominion beam technology into the Type 3s. And because the Galor Type 3s are pretty tough, they have really powerful shields equivalent to that of a Galaxy-class starship. So they have obviously a large warp core, a powerful warp core, so they could probably power something like that. And then on top of that, having Dominion technology, which is superior than Federation technology, they're able to boost it up just a little bit more. Now, the Klingon disruptor is around 900 or 975,000 point damage. That was incredibly powerful. So I was thinking that there is also another possibility that this is some kind of Klingon variant of that weapon, like a not as advanced, that they had acquired when they had infiltrated the Klingon Empire. Because we know that the Dominion was stealing technology from everybody, and so they knew a lot about the Klingons and the Cardassians and the Romulans because they had infiltrated all three. So obviously, if you have infiltrated at such a high level, you have inside intelligence to their technology, and so they could have, I don't know, maybe converted these other races' technology and then using Dominion technology did what they did with the Galor-class ships. And the reason that they're so powerful at the end is I think that most of the ships are destroyed and only the top of the line ships were left, you know, to defend the home fleet. And I believe those were the Type 3 variants because you can't build that many Type 3s. At least the Cardassians weren't building that many based off the D Space Nine manual. They only built a few of those a year compared to their standard version. So I think that they upgraded, because the thing is that the shields on the Type 1 and 2 never seem to have been upgraded by the Dominion, and I don't really understand why. So there must be some kind of technology issue where the shield technology just can't integrate with the Dominion technology, but for some reason the weapons maybe did. Or, like I said, it's the exact opposite, and they're actually using Klingon Romulan technology, which could integrate with Cardassian ships and then increase them that way. And that would explain why only their weapons were increased and not their shields, which I always thought was really strange to me, because why would you not give all these ships, you know, really powerful shields? They seem to still be crappy, you know, that 260,000, which is really pathetic. But this is an in-canon explanation of why, is that they actually are using the other races' technology and not Dominion. So why do you think the Galor ended up being so powerful with weapons? Was it using its navigational deflector, or was it a Dominion hybrid, or was it stolen technology from the other major powers? What do you think?